Well, hello there and welcome to the channel, and in this video I'm going to show you the plants I really enjoyed this year. So it's coming to the end of summer, everything's kind of done what it's going to do apart from one very lazy daily that's only just started to put out its flower, but hasn't even flowered yet, and it's halfway through September, so shocking attitude. But a lot of the stuff has done what it's going to do. So I'm just going to walk around and show you things I really enjoyed. So these are my favorite tropical plants from this year's garden. Now this year, the one that stood out the most for anyone who's come around here, and obviously for us too, is the hardy banana. It's been an absolute cracker, and what a display. It's grown to about 3.5 meters. You could say that top leaf is pushing 4 meters, so it's getting near to its highest growth point. So that's it, hardy banana, musella, absolutely cracking. But do you know what, that's a bit of an obvious choice. So I'm going to show you some of the more unusual bits that we've got hanging around the garden, and the next one is also from the banana family. Yeah, look, I know it doesn't look much, but this is a musella carpa, and despite being considered hardy, really struggled growing from last winter. Got proper hit, and the roots were damaged, but even so it still managed to put out a little stem, and I'd say it's probably grown bigger this year than it got to last year. But you know, the thing is, it's still alive, and that means there's hope for that amazing golden flower head that should hopefully pop up in the spring. But we'll see. If we have a mild winter, then there's a good chance that this is going to be absolutely spectacular, or not, because it's still quite young. Now this is one of the plants I've been proper geeking out about this year. Look at that, beautiful. It's the Bolivian Fuchsia. It's still quite small, but it only went in, we bought this as a cutting off of eBay in the spring, but I just love that. Look at that. And we first came across this, we only last year, we hadn't heard of it before, and we saw this in Madeira. You know, there's a few gardens that we went to, they all had one of these. None of them had a label on it, but this is the thing, Fuchsia boliviana. Absolutely superb, really enjoy this one. Now you might find this one a bit boring. Yes, it's a common spider plant, but absolutely look at that. This looks wonderful, really good. And what we've done, we put this into a hanging basket, hung it in the tree, watered it, so it's in the shade. It's loved it, and it's got absolutely massive. So yes, it's very common house plant, but I've really enjoyed this year, really good. Now everyone is a big fan of the castor oil plant. This one is Ricinus communis, and the red cultivar called Impala. You know, why wouldn't you like it? It's really good, but you know, you do see it in most of the gardens, so it's not particularly uncommon. But I tell you, I've got one here that really is. I've rarely seen it, and the first time I saw this was this year at the Chelsea Flower Show. Oh, so look at that. It's another Ricinus communis, and it's got green leaves, but it's not the bog standard species. It is another cultivar, and the cultivar is called red. And the reason why it's called red is because the stems and the branch works are this lovely red colour. Now it's a little bit in the shade here, so maybe if it was in full sun like that other Ricinus, then this red would come out better. But you know what, when the sun comes around and shines on this, these red stems are really sharp, and I've really enjoyed this. This is definitely one of my favorites, and I'm going to look to grow this again next year. Can only grow it from seed. I've never seen this sold in the garden centres. And can I say, that dichondra, again, another one of my favorite plants. Now we grew this last year, overwintered it in the garage, brought it out if there's no sign of frost, and it's done another really good job. In fact, it looks a bit like a wig with that gap in the middle of it. I could probably wear that and you wouldn't tell that I didn't have any hair. Absolutely wonderful specimen, Dichondra argentea silver falls. I recommend these. This is brilliant. Now this one here, this is a cultivar that I absolutely adored the very first time I've seen it, and I still absolutely love it. And look at it, it's in the shade, and it does such a good show in the shade because of all this, where is it, can't see, all this white foliage. I mean look at it. How can you have white foliage like this on a plant growing in the shade? And it's done really well. It's evergreen, it's pretty tough. It needs a bit of watering over the summer, especially if you've got it under a tree. But yeah, this is Fuchsia japonica spider's web, and I absolutely urge you to think of one of these if you're looking for a plant for the shade, especially one that's evergreen. Oh no, what's happened here? Everything looks dead. Oh, it's not dead. They're just the old petals, and I'm keeping them on because I want to keep these seed heads. We've got about 3 different cultivars growing in this pot, and hopefully we're going to get, at the size of that. So I'm hoping going to get some seed off this later on in the year. So before it gets cold, I have to take these on, dry them off. Anyway, so this is a glory lily. And although it looked pretty sad at the moment, it gave an absolutely phenomenal display. They are such, I mean, it's hard to find another plant with flowers as exotic as this one. So of course, this is one of my favourites. And why wouldn't it be? You just can't beat it. I mean, I suppose if you've got a cultivar with even bigger flowers, then I'd go for that. But it doesn't exist. You've got this one, or I think there's 3 in here. 3 different cultivars here, all very similar. In fact, look, it's still one last flower trying to do its thing. Bless his little socks. Look at it, look at it. Hopefully they don't fall apart. But yeah, not as impressive as they were earlier, but a truly wonderful thing. And again, if you want, like, it's a climbing plant, we've got it on a frame. If you want something that is absolutely spectacular but doesn't get too big, this one's brilliant. So going back into the border, and look, just spotted that. I mean, this is a very new plant, so it really isn't doing its thing. It's a Bolivian, what is it? Bolivian forest cactus. I'll put up the botanical name for it in case you want to get hold of it. It's been really good this year. I mean, I planted this as cuttings in the spring. I had 2 little cuttings. I got those off eBay because I couldn't find it anywhere else. And it has thickened down, but it really isn't doing its thing yet. So maybe next year this is going to be one of my favourite plants. But you can see how it's going to do. Anyway, just want to go into sort of like the main border here. And of course, there's a lot of plants in here that I really, really like. Why wouldn't I? I'm the one who put them in the first place. But look at this one here. This is a tree, Dahlia imperialis. And again, we bought this earlier this year, a couple of roots, planted it up, and it's, well, it's not even 2 meters yet, but I just love them. I don't know why. I mean, you know, you don't grow them for the flowers, you grow them for the size and the architectural look. But I'm hoping next year we're going to get an impressive specimen out of that. Oh look, I just had to show you that spider plant again with the sunlight on it just at the end of the day, and look at that beautiful golden hour, I believe they call that. I think of the, I think the dichondra and I think this spider plant, these are my 2 favourite plants that I've got in the trees. Everything else, you know, I mean, this is, I can't remember what this is called actually, but you know, this has got a massive drop of about 8 foot on there, but it just doesn't look very impressive. I think it needs to thicken up, but we'll overwinter this one, give it a cut back, and hopefully we'll bring this out again in the spring, and hopefully it'll fill up a bit more. I might just have to buy another couple of plants and just fill them in the top just to get that overhang. So it's kind of, it did the thing I wanted it to do, but it's not as impressive as I was hoping it to be. Just quickly walking around, I think I kind of covered the ones that are most favourite. I'm looking forward to this doing its thing. This is the old Crimson Glory vine. So Vitus cognetii, and it's doing its thing, but I don't think we're going to have this covering the frame really until the end of next year. And do you know, it's such a heavy feed. I keep feeding this thing, and it still keeps showing this nutrient deficiency. I mean, it takes up so much nitrogen. So should I feed it more? I mean, it's September. You don't really feed plants this time of year because they'll be dropping its leaves soon. But you know, if I put it in, it could increase the roots in the bottom for a quicker bounce come March, but we'll see. But you know what, this is, I haven't really mentioned this in a lot of the videos, but this is Arondodonax, which is, what is it, the Spanish sword reed, Spanish dagger. Is it Spanish dagger? I think it might be. I think this is I keep calling it variegata, but it's not the variegata, the true cultivar called variegata, but this is something like versicolor or something like that. But it's quite nice, and it's a lot stockier than the species that is a bit of a thug and will just romp off, and it's hardy. You know, we've had this about 3 years, and you know, even passed through that very, very cold winter last year. So it is one of my favourites, but it's because we've had them for a few years, it kind of doesn't attract my attention so much anymore. Need to make an effort, be a bit better. Anyway, and that anyway means that I'm coming to the end anyway. So for my last favourite plant, and I mean, I've never not liked these. These are absolutely wonderful, but they are a little bit of a pain to grow in this country because you've got to bring them in. It's a sago palm, Cycas revoluta, and I'm loving it at the moment because we've only had it a little while, so it's like one of my babies. And see all this new, you see, you've got the old growth here with that dark green, and we've got all the new growth. It's still a bit feathery, but even now it's starting to thicken up quite hardy. So there we have it. These are my favourite plants from the garden this year. And if you've got any plants that you particularly have enjoyed, then put those in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Anyway, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.